Hello and welcome to the Fen Den. I'm your host, Sean Allen Fenn, and my goal is to win your hearts and to change your minds. Hey, welcome to the Fen Den. I'm your host, Sean Allen Fenn, and I told you what my goal is. It's to win your
heart.
That's right, and change your
mind. That's
right. The voice that you just heard is a very, very special guest. Fortunately, I'm having really cool people come on the Fen Den. And as I'm getting ready and I'm gearing up for Grant Cardone is coming on the show soon. So, if you've been listening for a while, I mentioned that I'm really trying to step up my game here. So, the more amazing people I can interview, the better for you, the better for me, the better for our family. And we're just going to get right into it. As you have been following my social media at Sean Allen Fenn, and as you've been listening to my podcast, The Fen Den, you may have noticed that I am really inspired by people who are doing interesting things, leaving their mark on the world, whether they are an artist, an entrepreneur, a designer. And today we have the great honor of a poet, and her name is Karina Guardiola. I can never pronounce her name right. Guardiola. I'm gonna use my
G-Lopez.
I'm just gonna abbreviate it, but not everyone knows this, but I'm actually Mexicano.
Yes.
So even though I sound like the biggest gringo you've ever heard, I'm gonna tap into my Latino side.
Nice.
And welcome my homie Karina G-Lopez.
Yay.
The poet.
But it is Guardiola.
Not
bad.
I'm gonna move the mic just upwards a little bit here. And as we get right into it, so one of the things that I really like about Karina, we've known each other for a while. Little backstory: we've known each other for several years, and went and experienced some very interesting things, and as we go through the world, discovering things about ourselves and the world around us, and how people are, and what people want, and what they don't know they want, and Karina's always been a visionary person, to the point where she'll often have dreams, and she'll come and tell me, I had a dream about you, and it's always a trip. It's always really exciting to hear, like, what did you dream next? So naturally, I'm really curious about really exploring your visionary side, because I wonder how much that fuels your poetry. So, before I get into that, would you say I have a calling, or how is it comfortable for you to kind of define if it's your calling or your purpose? Sometimes it's interesting to distinguish between, like, if you have a mission or your vision. It depends on the kind of person that you are, but would you say that
definitely purpose?
Okay, so your purpose. Can you explain a little bit about that? What
purpose is?
Yeah, when someone asks, well, what's your purpose? Or if you think, you know what, this is my purpose. So maybe if you're writing a line, or if you're performing, and I don't know how often you think, but this is my purpose.
I don't sleep. I get insomnia a lot because my mind is constantly up and racing, and my husband is always telling me go to sleep. It's really hard for me to sleep sometimes. I have to drink like something to put me to sleep. But for me, I think it depends on my mood. Sometimes I write something and I'm just venting. Other times I'm writing to see if maybe somebody else is going through the same thing I'm going through, or when I do my workshops, especially when I did it with my students, it was a mechanism to teach students how to vent and express. I think my main thing is venting and expressing, at least for me, and teaching others how to do that, not keeping that gift to myself. That's one thing I don't believe in. Everyone has gifts, and you just have to tap into them. And I've always been a person that likes to collaborate and learn from others, or even teach others, and vice versa. And so yeah, I like doing that.
So for you, is venting, when you say it's a way of venting, would you say it's a way to get your emotions out, or like get your feelings heard? What can you say about venting? What does it mean?
It's a little bit of both. I know that for my students, one motto I used to always tell them was, I want to teach you how to use your fists to move pens and not punch faces. I know that one thing growing up, bottling your anger and always being angry, always having this attitude, I think writing has helped me, for lack of a better word, just chill out a bit, choose my battles, and understand that everything's not a fight, everything's not a war. I don't have to always battle everything, and writing has helped me channel certain things like, okay, you're angry, write about it. You're sad, write about it. You're happy, write about it. And you won't even have to express it physically. You can do it just verbally. I feel it's a healing mechanism. It's a healing tool as well, at least for me. Your pressure goes up to 200 and it's not even called for. Write about it and the pressure won't go that high. So, yeah.
As a healing tool, poetry not only is of course emotional, but as a healing tool, it is probably, would you agree with that it can be healing to, for the poet, sort of cathartic, but also for the reader or the listener? It seems like with your work, because you have a purpose, your work tends to have a healing healing effect to it, or a healing side, to where even though if you're venting, and of course you might be angry about something, but it always sounds, I get the impression that it is constructive and it's never destructive.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I guess, I hear what you're saying. I think when I write something down that I'm feeling, I don't want to just, I guess my first draft would not go on the page. It would go through certain stages. The first draft is basically the vomit, and then I try to put it together, make it look pretty. What I do notice is that people are like, oh, I felt that before, or I'm feeling that right now at this moment, or, oh wow, that's deep. And I'm like, well, it's not that deep. It's just, me expressing myself, and those type of connections is what made me feel like, maybe I'm not that much of a black sheep as I thought I was, or maybe other people can relate to the things that I've been through or I am going through at that moment. So that is definitely another reason why I also write. Because I usually feel like some people don't understand what you want to say or express, but that paper and the pen is definitely going to be your listener. But then when I put it out there, people are like, oh no, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's kind of odd. I'm odd.
You're odd?
I am.
Do you still feel like a black sheep? Or?
Several times I do. I say that sometimes among my friends, and they're like, Karina, stop. But I do feel, since I was a kid, I remember having a dream of being in a field of white sheep. And I don't know what this was, but there was a man coming towards me, and the man picked me up, and I was a black sheep. So I've always felt different. I've never felt like I was like everybody else growing up. And then, growing up in school, I wasn't like following my friends and doing things that they were doing. I was always like doing my own thing, but still the cool kid. Not always a cool kid. I mean, there was a point in my life where I wasn't cool, but in high school I was pretty much around cool people, but not doing what they did because I just had this thing about, this is me. I've always been, this is me. I'm different. Not necessarily I have an old soul, even though that's what they used to call me. My nickname was Grandma and Mom and stuff like that. Yeah, like, oh, you're the grandma in the group. But I do feel like I'm a bit different. And I feel like we're all like snowflakes. We're all different, right? We're snowflakes, but we're different.
Yeah, snowflakes. Everyone's different.
You see, there are snowflakes everywhere. I really do relate to that snowflake. Because there is not one snowflake in this world that is alike the other. It's like fingerprints. You know what I mean? Like we're all human, but we're all different. Yeah.
We're all different. We all want to be a special snowflake.
Yeah.
I think we all do. I'm different. You're different.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is a sense of security when you're in a group.
This is true. Depends on the group. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to belong to something and be a part of something, and that's always an honor and a privilege to be around people who are like-minded like you and share your vision, see your vision, respect the vision, respect your values. There aren't that many people that I can say hold that as a valuable asset. But the small group of people that I've been around, I feel we all have that in common, where we're all about respecting one another's beliefs, opinions, and just being chill and just live your life and do your art and just, don't hate anybody and live life and don't do bad and, stuff like that. So I always feel like there is this little circle of people, even if they're different people, we all have that same pattern of do good, do unto others what you want done to you. As cheesy as that sounds, as cliche as that sounds, that golden rule really does go a long way. I see it now more as I get older.
I don't think it sounds cliche. I mean, it's true. I mean, in my last podcast, I was talking to my friend, and we were talking about talking to Eric on social media at Urban Creative, ERBAN Creative, and we were talking about the number one, karma, but I was sort of dissecting it a little bit to go into why we have a notion of karma when there's simply a law of one of the physical laws that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and then when something happens to you, you can attach meaning to it, to where, like he was saying, like if he was rude to someone, then after that something would happen, like his phone would break or he would lose his phone or something, and then consider that like karma. When granted it's the meaning that you attach to it,
right,
but it's still a fact that whatever you want, how you want to be treated, I think is how you should treat people.
Exactly. You reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow.
I definitely believe in that. You plant some bad seeds, you're going to get bad fruit. You plant some positive, good, delicious seeds, you're going to get some delicious fruit. And so I always believe in seeing people by their fruits. And I know that sounds kind of religious, but it is metaphorical. You can see people by how they behave and what they say and how they act. Those are their fruits, to me. We're all little seeds that grow.
Yeah, we're all little seeds. I mean, I know that you may think it sounds religious, but some people really haven't heard these little metaphors before. And so they can be really powerful, especially to someone who really hasn't. If they're a cliche always starts from something that's true. And then if not everyone has heard it, it's not a cliche yet.
Oh, yeah. If it's overdone, then yeah.
If it's overdone and out of context and corny. But I mean, it's a very strong analogy that we're all little seeds.
We are.
And that by our actions, it just goes to show, like, truth is louder than words. I'm sorry. Actions are louder than words.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And I think people can see that and value that. And you talked about respecting values.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your values,
like,
that you can think of right off the bat?
Top of my list?
Yeah, the top of your list.
The top of my list is being authentic. Being yourself. Don't be a facade. Don't wear a mask. Don't be two-faced. You're not a penny, you know? That's definitely up there. I feel people always want to jump on a bandwagon or want to please other people and be a people pleaser and, oh, look what I'm doing. I'm doing this too. I'm cool. No, I think being authentic and being yourself and being original, not a copy, is so refreshing. So that's number one. Honesty. Honesty is big. I know it seems like, oh yeah, tell the truth. No, a lot of people don't know how to tell the truth. The truth hurts, and the truth hurts when you're looking in the mirror as well. No one wants to see themselves for who they really are. So definitely truth. And I've had some obstacles with people being very deceitful after all you do is, be genuine and outpouring to them. And at the end, they're just like not authentic at all. They're foes. So that would be my top two. I think I have a couple of words up there. See, honesty's up there. That's a big one. Love, of course. Everybody's talking about love, but love is an action. You can't say, oh yeah, I'm all about love and I'm all about this, but sometimes love hurts. Sometimes me telling you, hey, you have a booger in your nose, it's going to hurt your feeling, but I'd rather tell you have a booger in your nose than some stranger laugh at you. A good friend would tell you, you got some snot, here's some tissue. That's love. Yeah,
that's right, especially when anyone who would tell you something like that, you probably have a relationship with them to begin with.
Right.
And even though, that's not a life or death issue, but you might need a tissue. I'm getting
I like that.
You can use that. I'm getting some of your. Catching your vibe, your poetry vibe.
But yeah, so.
Love is a verb.
Yep, it's definitely a verb.
And in poetry, you really pay attention to the use of words and the meaning of words, and for example, like, love is a verb when technically it's a noun, but when you turn it into a verb, like I love you, when you say that, it can turn into so much more.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, so speaking of love and loving people, how have people been affected by your poetry?
That's a good question. How have people been affected by my poetry? I would like to say that they appreciate it. Those that have expressed that to me, I'm not sure who has read my stuff. Maybe not that many, maybe a lot. I have no idea. But the people who have shown me a lot of love, especially during my book release at the South of France back in April, with the help of El David. I didn't think people. Not that I didn't think people would be supportive. I was just, I guess, overwhelmed by the amount of love that I had. I was like, wow. So I think people see me as this rapper type / poet, who's just saying what's on her mind. And there are going to be times where I kind of do relate with what they feel, and they're going to relate with what I feel. So I guess you can say I don't know. I'm running out of words.
Poet running out of words.
I'm kind of running out of words. Not sure. I would like to say positive. Good. I would like for people to get a message out of what I'm saying, something positive. Whether it's a negative or a positive incident that I'm writing about, just get the point of the message. So, yeah.
What's an incident that sticks out in your mind that you've written about that can be construed as negative?
Whew. An incident that I've written about that can be construed as negative. Okay, so, encountering false preachers, if you will, false rabbis, bishops, pastors, whatever they want to call themselves, priests, they all fall into that same category. And having this notion of, you can't speak bad about them because that's gossip, or like they say, lashon hara, which is evil tongue. If I'm speaking the truth, if this person is a wicked person and is doing damage to their congregants, and is lying and is stealing and is cheating and is doing all these bad things, and I'm exposing it, there's nothing bad about that. I believe God says test the spirits, and I believe you should expose it. Just like roaches, when roaches are put to light, when you turn on the light, they scatter. That's what I think should happen to all these fake pastors. They should scatter around and go hide under rocks instead of collecting all these, tides and having private jets and different things. So I've been a victim to that twice. You would think I learned the first time, but a decade later it happened to me again. And then
Crazy.
I was like, wow. But that's what happens when you love a lot. That's what happens when you're a caring person and you try to see the best in people and give people second chances, or give a type of ideology a second chance. Like, you know what, let me try this again. But the scripture that kept coming to me was, many will come in God's name. Many will come in God's name. And I'm like, yeah, so no, many will come in his name. So just because I say I'm a part of this movement doesn't mean that I'm legit. And so a lot of people don't want to hear that. No, do not speak of my pastor, or do not speak of my rabbi like that. He is a man of God. Well, we are children of God. Why don't you relax? Right? If he's doing something and it's being exposed, then it is what it is. If he wants to repent, cool, repent. Don't do it again and keep moving forward. But if you're not repenting, I'm going to call you out on it. Some people like that, some people don't. And most of the people who don't like it, they're upset. That's okay. I love for you too. When your veil is removed and your eyes are open, then maybe you'll be able to see it the way I see it. Maybe when you're paying for his Lexus and his alligator shoes, or his rent, or whatever it is that they're buying, then maybe you'll get the gist of it. And I've been through that before, so twice.
Before Lexus and alligator shoes.
Yes. that happened to me in
that's an actual reference.
That actually happened. Yeah, back in Jamaica, Queens, New York. It was a couple of guys and myself. We were doing some music and we were part of this congregation, and Pastor was like Pastor Cash, like
Pastor Cash.
Pastor Cash, that's what I call him. And I was open to being part of that congregation. I really didn't have a place to go, and it wasn't part of my belief system. But I said, hey, I won't. I'm still learning. I'm willing to join this and willing to be a part of this. And then when I get into it, buffoonery.com.
Buffoonery.org.
Yeah. .org, yes. Buffoonery.org. / Pastor Cash.
Pastor Cash.
So, yep. That's that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think if anyone doesn't expose it, they are morally inept. Mm-hmm. Because it should be your responsibility.
It should. And I was told a lot of times not to, especially in the second case, not to say anything. And it had its benefits where, as a believer of Hashem, I do believe that God does speak to us sometimes. And there are times that I should be silent and there are times I should speak. But I feel like there were more times where I should have said something. And I didn't. But it's all good because 90% of those people are out of that place. And that's not a pat on the back for me. That's a pat on the back for God, because God is showing that anybody who is trying to use my name in vain and poison my people with false ideologies and idolatry or whatever it is that they're doing, because they're worshiping a man, right? Believe that this man is godly. No one's godly. We're all sinners. And so when that happens, God exposes it. And we're like, oh, okay. Yep. Everything in the dark comes to light. Just like little roaches. Dark comes to light. Little roaches in the dark. Turn on that light, they're all scattered. Like, raid! Like
raid!
Yeah.
So true.
Yep. But I'm not bitter about it. Maybe I was in the beginning. I felt that this was a useful experience for me to just prove my point and prove God's point that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of corruption out there. You better watch it. Not everybody that says they're about me are about me. So, yeah. I'm not bitter about it at all. I appreciate the experience completely. And now I feel like if I was a little bit more stronger then, I'm definitely much more stronger now. So, like, I got stabbed in the back. This time I got stabbed in the face. I actually saw it happen. So, it is what it is.
Wow, you saw it happen.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of seeing things happen, I didn't see your book release, but you mentioned it.
Oh, that was in April.
And that was in April.
Yeah. I think April 17, I believe it was. At south of France, in the Bronx. 800 Westchester Avenue or Square. And it was hosted by El David. He's part of El Cat. Very talented poet. And I had the honor to join him in his book release, because he had a book release called The Outlaw of Poetry. So that was dope. And it was an interesting day because it was a Friday and it was just before sunset. And I remember telling myself, oh, I usually don't do these things on Friday, but I'm trying to open my mind a little bit more, where that scripture says, where two or three are gathered, God is in the midst. And where there's love, God is in the midst. So I might not have been at a synagogue or a temple or whatever, but I was among people that were doing something like enjoying poetry and being in unity and being in community. And that, to me, God is in there.
God is in there.
God is in there.
Without people, there is no synagogue. Ta-da! There is no community.
Exactly. It's not a building. It is us.
It's the people anyway.
We are the people. Exactly. We are the temple. So it was like a perfect day to do it. And I struggled with it a little bit. And then I felt like God was just like, you're focusing on the wrong stuff. So
yeah.
After sunset, of course, I stopped selling the books and my friend took over, but because I still have some of that, but still I feel like God is starting to open me up a little bit. Like, I'm not so confined in the box the way you think I am. And the older I'm getting, I'm starting to see, okay, maybe he's not in this box. Maybe he's in this box. He was like,
a bigger box.
No, well, try again. Okay, maybe you're in this box. And it's like,
a bigger box.
I'm not in any of those boxes. So it's going to take some time. There's a lot of residue, all the things that I've learned growing up and, being fed certain things by family and friends. So we're always evolving. And that's something that I'm learning. It was very painful for me to understand that I don't have it all together over 35 years. I'm over 35. I'm like, nope, this is it. This is my life. This is my career. It's my life. And no, I had a new job. And the whole thing with this crazy temple happened. And it's like, I'm a caterpillar again. And I remember asking God, why are you doing this to me? Like, I should have everything established. How would I go from a butterfly to a caterpillar again? And he gave me this word, like, you're a butterfly phoenix. You died and you're going to resurrect again from the ashes, and we're going to make it bigger and better. And I said, butterfly phoenix. I wrote it down. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to write it down. Sounds good. Use it later in the future.
I like that.
But yeah, so... yeah. I have my ups and downs with God, and I'm like, hey, I should have it together by now. And he's like, no, you don't have it together. and I'm gonna show it to you. And then all this stuff happened, like a bowling ball hit all these pins, and there goes my life. My job, my friends. But then you survive.
Why at 35 would you even
I'm 36
expect,
now, but yeah.
36. Why would you have it all together?
I guess that's what I put in my head. According to me, I felt like I had it. I think you're 35, you should have everything set by now, right? Because people say, oh,
Like
once
what?
you're 25, you have everything set. Nah, once you're 30, you have everything set.
It says who?
Nah. Right, and that's the point. It says who. And so now I'm going to be 37 in February, and it's like, I'm almost 40. Society says I'm old. I don't feel old, even though my hip is a little out. But and I'm still growing. It's a weird thing to think that you have everything all together and that you're not evolving. It's a big lie.
It is a big lie.
It is a big lie. Because I really did think, I'm set, I'm done, this is straight. Nope. God's like, ha 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 ha. Then moves his little piece and says, checkmate.
Checkmate.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you should always be thinking 3 steps ahead anyway, just like chess.
Right.
Which means you're never you never made it because you always have to think steps ahead. So that means there are things ahead of you.
Correct.
So how can you have it all figured out?
Right. I know. It is a crazy thing to think, but I guess. And then my grandma's like, the women change every 7 years. So I'm here like 7, 14, 21, 28, 35,
Literally.
35. I'm in my 5th year. That's why the chaos is happening. So I'm like,
That's
all right,
why.
Grandma, sure, that works.
Grandma knows.
Grandma knows best.
Well, society says all kinds of things.
Oh, I know. I'm not that like.
What is that? What does that matter?
I know. And it's like, no, I'm not trying to think about what society thinks. I feel like society sometimes feeds you these mediocrity. And, oh, you have to have a child by the age of 30. And you need to be married by this time. And I'm like, says who? And why? And this and that. And so now I'm starting to be like, no, you know what? I'm not feeding into that. Just like I put God in a box, I'm not going to put myself in a box. And I'm going to put your ideology in a box. I'm not a statistic. I am not your data. I am me. And yeah. I say it sounds good, but I'm still going through the process as we're speaking it. I'm still going through it like blah, blah, blah.
Well,
that makes sense.
Well, yeah, you're going to keep going through it because that's what evolving is.
Right. Like,
That's what the butterfly phoenix is.
Right. The butterfly phoenix.
Yeah, you're going to keep evolving.
Yeah. Then my cocoon's gonna dry up. I'll be a butterfly again. She's gonna get old. Back to dust. Back to cocoon. It's like, man, constant cycle.
It's a constant cycle, and then say, okay, after, at the end, I'm gonna ask you a question. Now that we're getting talking about dust to dust, but I'll save that to the end of the interview. Except to say that even at that point where your butterfly phoenix has risen and accomplished what you set out to accomplish, and then we're all dust to dust at the end of the day.
Facts. Yep.
So, but after that, the world keeps still going.
Right.
The world keeps going without us.
True. Oh yeah.
And so, especially as a poet and an artist of any caliber, everyone doing something, working towards something significant, that lives on after your dust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, that's what I think is so vital and life-giving to be a creator and to be a creative person. It's because you're building something and you're leaving a legacy that should live beyond you.
Well, when you put it like that, yeah, it sounds kind of cool.
It's very cool.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
And so your book was titled The Jutina Journals.
Yeah.
That's the one that was released last April?
Yes. Jutina Journals. And it's so funny because even from Jutina journals, I've already evolved into something else. Like, from every book, from the first one, I believe it was Pens, Prose. I even forgot the name of my book. Poems, Prose, and Phases. And then I went to the Journals and Journeys of a Writer. And then Jutina journals. It's like I'm constantly, like, even looking at my writings different. My mentality was different. Where I was at that moment. How I'm thinking now. And so when I think of Jutina journals, I'm like, wow. I'm like not even in that place when I wrote all of that right now. Not that it's a bad thing, but I'm just not there. I think I vented and vomited everything that I had to, put it in the book, sealed it. And it's like, all right, that's, that's another part of Karina. Let's move on to another part. I feel like my books do that to me. If that makes sense.
Part. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah. It sounds like a time capsule.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's a good word. I like that. Time capsule. So these little time capsules of moment of time of when Karina thought this and when Karina thought chocolate was like the best flavor. And then here she thought pistachio was, and now she likes mint chocolate chip. And so yeah, like that.
And now we moved on to mint chocolate chip.
Yeah. So true.
Chocolate is so last year. No, mint chocolate chip.
That's hilarious. But yeah, so
it's true. That's honest. I mean, you're not a people pleaser. You don't have to. You don't have to stay the same.
No.
And how boring would that be?
Yeah, I feel like the right people will gravitate towards you when you're yourself. You can't be a people pleaser. You'll never be yourself. There's a quote. And I know a lot of people might cringe because it's from Bill Cosby, but there was a point in my life where I really admired Bill Cosby, I'm going from a GED to a PhD and saying things like, I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is to please everybody, So he has a lot of wisdom, regardless of all the things that he's going through. And, I'm not God. I don't know. I wasn't there. I would like to believe it's false, but if it is true, then he needs to also ask for forgiveness. But I feel like there's good in everybody, right? Even bad people, unfortunately. There is a little bit of good because everybody was created from God. So there has to be something good about that person. I mean, that's what I think.
What about Hitler? Was there anything good about Hitler?
That's a good one. Was there anything good about Hitler? Let me see.
Don't say that word because we don't want.
There has to be. I can't find it right Hitler, now. I can't.
But
I can't. Yeah, I think. Well, I might take that back. I don't.
Okay, exception.
If you had good taste in shoes, I don't know. There's nothing good about that.
German boots.
But yeah, I don't know. No, I might take it back. But guess what? God created him.
That's right.
Bananas, right? Bananas. And he decided to choose the path that he chose. God probably wasn't happy with that. But he's like, all right, this is what you chose, right? I wanted you to eat chocolate, but you chose poop. And I try to tell you, don't go for the poop. There's flies around it. Don't do it. And you're like, nah,
I'd rather do what they do.
I'd rather do the poop than the chocolate fudge. Let's go for the poop. It's like a parent telling their kid, don't go for the poop. Go for the chocolate ice cream. That poop with the cone, you're not going to like the taste of that poop in the cone. Nah, Mom, I'm going to try the poop with the cone because I know what I'm doing. You were right. So.
Yeah, it's true. People are going to do what they're going to do, though.
Yeah.
They're going to eat shit.
No,
and
nice
you can't stop it. I mean, we can get kind of profound because speaking of on this topic, I didn't expect to go here, but it's been said like when I have a friend who told me that he's an atheist. I'm paraphrasing. Of course, I don't remember verbatim, but when you consider the Holocaust, how can you?
I know, believe in God.
Have you heard this position before? This way of thinking that, well, how can there be a God if God would allow the Holocaust?
Yeah.
And God would allow someone like Hitler to be on this earth.
I mean, I understand it. Just like, why is there poverty? And why my 5-year-old cousin had to die from cancer? Or 8-year-old, cousin had to die from cancer. She was 8. What did she do wrong? What karma did she do? You know what I mean? She's 8. But one thing that my husband told me one time, because I did question these things, especially when my father passed away, you have to understand that, yes, God created the world, but He gave it to somebody to dwell on. He gave it to the other one. The other one's just chilling here. So maybe He has some type of power that we don't even really understand. Does it sound sucky? Sure does. Why did He give him power? Don't know. Find out maybe when I'm gone. But who am I to question it? Nobody. So if it's true that the other one has power over this realm, then some bad stuff will happen. Is it cool? No. And so that's the way my husband explains it. Like, how do you know it was God? How do you know it wasn't the adversary? You're right, I don't know. I wasn't there. Maybe it was the adversary. But if it was the adversary, why did God allow it?
Why did God allow it? Yeah, right? That's what I kind of want to dive into here, because if God created everything, if they created, regardless of what a person believes who's listening to the Fen Den with your host Sean Allen Fenn, regardless of what a person believes, if you accept that we are created beings and that everything was created and just didn't magically appear out of nowhere, well, then whatever created us also created evil.
Exactly. And that goes back to William Blake's poem. I think it's called Tiger. He has a few poems, but he was also a Gnostic. And he talks about, I'm paraphrasing the poem, but it's one of my favorite poems. Did the one who created the lamb also create the snake? That was one of the things that he said. That's a good title. It's right. He did create the snake, right? So it's like, but was a snake always a snake? And so I wrote to that poem. And I remember saying, I think in my first book, something like, but was the snake always a snake? Or was it a fangless worm that became a snake? Was it a harmless creature that wanted more and became that? Maybe not. We don't know. I feel like the thing, as I get older, I feel like I'm open to whatever interpretation people have. If you say, Karina, I don't believe what you're saying, I think what you're saying is full of poop. All right, cool. What do you believe? I believe that this, that, and the third, and aliens came and created snowflakes, and the snowflakes are gods. That's your theory. That's what you believe. Cool. It doesn't fit with me. It doesn't fit with my journey. And somebody else could say, well, I think both of y'all full of crap. I think that, we're a bunch of puppets, and that there are, Zeus and gods and whatever on other planets, and they're laughing at us, and they're throwing rockets at us, and we don't even feel it. Or, like, people can make up their own thing or whatever it is. If it doesn't fit with my journey. There's so many religions out there, and I respect every single one of them. I have love for, Islam. I have love for the Buddhists. I have love for Christians. I have love for I'm trying to remember the Yoruba faith. Every faith. There's billions of them, right? So it's like, but it doesn't fit with my journey right now. It doesn't, and I'm not saying that it won't change, because I was born and raised Roman Catholic. Like 90% of us were, right? And so whatever it is that God is shifting me to, whatever path He's moving on to, I'll just keep on following that path until I seek Him. That's my goal. My goal is to seek Him. And if the goal is to seek Him through worshiping chairs, which right now for me isn't my path, then okay, then I'll try it. But I don't think that's for me right now. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
I respect everybody's journey.
It makes sense. I respect everyone's journey too, because at the end of the day, people are going to make up their own thing,
and that is true.
And Neil deGrasse Tyson said something that I liked once. That again, I'm going to paraphrase, but the gist of it was that he respects everyone's religion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to, believe that aliens created snowflakes are gods, and you're going to worship a chair.
Right.
That's fine. But once you bring it into a scientific context and think like, okay, this is the fact, and this is the way it is, and I'm going to deny all the scientific evidence against that.
Right.
And then I'm going to teach it as if it were true.
Then it becomes a problem.
And you're just an idiot.
One thing you said that it reminded me of my friend Latanya. Latanya created this. It's like a little movement. Came out of a Sunday writing circle, became the Full Circle Ensemble. She said she had created this play called something about your truths. Everybody's truth is different. My truth is that chocolate chip is not the best flavor, but your truth is that it is, right? But my truth is vanilla bean is the best flavor. So our truths are different. You will have the religious fanatic that says, no, that is not true. There is one truth. And the thing is like, okay, that truth is for you, not for me. And I think that's where people become a snare, or trying to think of another word. This is where people don't use that word love, because that's not love. When you're telling me you're doing this wrong, this is the truth. The truth is that this boot is for Mars, and we're going to sacrifice to this boot. All right, that's your truth, but that's not my truth. Why does it gotta be my truth? So I've been through that phase where people have told me like, no, if you don't do this, you don't do this and do this and do this, you're going to hell. According to who? According to whose truth? Your truth, not my truth. That's your truth. People are gonna be like, oh, Karina's crazy. So yeah,
it's all crazy.
We haven't met God. We're doing this based on faith. Everything that I believe, everything that you believe, everything that my husband believes is based on faith that this is the truth. This is the actuality. What happens if it's not? Let's say we die and it's not. Let's say we go up to heaven and it's Alvin and the Chipmunks up there. You're like, and I'm not trying to be blasphemous, but what if? Because I haven't met anybody I haven't met Moses, I haven't met Enoch, I haven't met any of them. But this is what I rely on God. This is what I'm going to believe. And this is what I'm doing. And this is what I'm celebrating. But some people are like, what happens if it's not that? You're right.
What happens if it's not that? Because like I said, people are going to make up their own thing anyway. And even we can talk about words again and what words mean, but truth is not concrete. Mm-hmm. It's not a concrete noun. It's not tethered to anything that you can hold in your hand like a brick.
That makes sense, yes. I agree.
So, because of that, it doesn't, it's totally malleable.
I like that.
And secondly, people love to be the first to call someone wrong.
Oh, yes. Of course.
So it's totally natural that a religious fanatic is going to tell someone that they're going to hell.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they just love to be right and make someone else wrong.
Yeah, and then when you find out that the person that told you is going to hell is the biggest adversary himself, or, not a good guy. So they're pointing that finger and then 3 pointing at them. So yeah. Yeah,
it's all, we're all just trying to make sense of the world.
Correct.
We're just going through the world, to get back to my question about how can God allow the Holocaust and allow something like Hitler. To one thing that struck me, and I don't know if someone pointed this out to me or what, but the question that someone should be asking is, well, what are you doing about it? It's your responsibility. It's our responsibility to stop that from happening. Mm-hmm. So when the evil people of the world, like the Hitlers, rise up in the world, it's our responsibility
to stop it. Right.
It's up to us. And if we don't do it, what, God is gonna, okay, now God is gonna intervene because we didn't, because we failed. So now how are we gonna blame an invisible being? Mm-hmm. How are we going to just pass the blame to someone or something that we can't even see and can't even prove exists? When it's up to us, it's our responsibility.
Correct.
Me and you.
Correct.
To be our brother's keeper and to stand up for justice.
And I even heard somebody even say something to the effect of, How is it that we're calling on to God when we've removed him from our courts? We've removed prayer from our schools, and we're removing. But then when something bad happens, where are you? That type of sense. When I heard that, I said, it's a very interesting, very sensitive, but very interesting thought. I think that's very interesting.
It's interesting because it's convenient to blame,
of course,
someone or something else.
Right.
Except when it's not in our favor.
Right.
Hey, once again, you're listening to the Fen Den podcast with your host, Sean Allen Fenn, at Sean Allen Fenn, where my goal is to change your
heart.
And win your
heart?
Yes. Change your mind.
No, your mind.
Win your heart and change your mind.
My bad.
So, as we come in for a landing, and it's so great to be able to talk to Karina G-Lopez, the poet. Her book is called The Jutina Journals.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm going to ask her about her performance that she has opening this weekend.
Yep.
And but before I do that, what Karina do you want to see happen? I mean, with your career, or is it
what I want to see happen with my career?
Yeah, or with your poetry.
I didn't think that far. I don't know. I would love to continue doing this. I would like to continue writing, and maybe like right now I'm working on a 3-woman show. Maybe one day do something bigger. Maybe on TV. Who knows? Like whatever God has planned for me, I'm grateful for. He's taken me this far. Yeah. No idea.
All right. So your play opens Saturday.
Yes, December 2nd, 2017.
December 2nd.
7 p.m. Doors open at 6. It is at the National Black Theater in Harlem.
The National Black Theater in Harlem, and it's called
Live Big Girl.
Oh, Live Big Girl. I saw it on your social media, and I thought it was Live Big Girl.
Yeah, a lot of people do, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, live performance.
That too, yeah. Some people say Live Big Girl.
Okay.
Or Live Big Girl. So it's
Live Big Girl.
Yeah. 3 women, 1 message. Definitely not about obesity, which is something that a lot of people have been attacking us with. That, oh, you guys are promoting obesity, and you guys are promoting not living a healthy lifestyle, and that's not good, and that's bad. Why are you doing that? That's not what we're promoting. Yeah, we're promoting self-esteem, self-awareness, self-love. And there'll be people out there like, well, I don't need that because I have it. Well, good for you. We want to share it with the rest of us, not just keep it to ourselves.
That's right, exactly.
So, I know for my personal journey, we all have our own journey. Vanessa Chica's in it, Rebecca Lois Ducret, and then the director, Peggy Robles Alvarado. We all have a little spin of it. For me, it's about, loving myself even when I'm not at my goal. If I do have a goal, whatever it is, whether it's 5 years from now that I'm going to make it or a year from now, still being able to live big and loving myself through that process. Not waiting for me to meet my goal and then be like, okay, now I can be happy, now I can be comfortable, now I can live life. No, it's about living life regardless of what you look like, how you're feeling at that moment. It's about appreciating every breath that God has given us. And even in this body, this big body. So yeah, it's about loving yourself. It's about and teaching other women to do it. And if you know how to do it, cool. Bring it on. Let's share it, because a lot of people want to keep that to themselves. Not all of us have that swag. Not all of us have that self-confidence. I know I wasn't always confident. I was always, and sometimes I still, struggle with it a bit because I'm not perfect. But coming together as one, as community, men and women of all sizes, of different stories of whether you lost 100 pounds, whether you lost 2 pounds, whether you don't want to lose weight, just being an encouragement to one another.
Encouragement.
Yeah.
That is so key. And I love that you said you're not perfect, because it's one of my favorite subjects. and it's similar to what I said about truth, that it's not a concrete noun.
Correct.
You can't hold it like a brick in your hand. You can't hold perfect like a brick in your hand.
Right.
And I put forth, if you will, that you are perfect.
Wow. I don't know about that, but
well, you don't know about that, but let me sell you on this.
Okay.
You are perfect. It's just that you got the wrong information.
From society?
From society, exactly.
Okay. Makes sense.
You're letting society tell you what's perfect.
I mean,
again.
It's like society saying I'm not in shape, but round is a shape, right?
Round is a shape.
Like, joke's on you, ha ha. Maybe like that type of thing.
Maybe, but you're not a people pleaser.
Well, yeah.
And so you're perfect just the way you are, because you spit rhymes perfectly.
I don't know about perfectly.
They're good enough for me. You love people perfectly.
I would like to believe that. Maybe some people don't believe that.
I'm selling you on this. You're for everything that you do it perfectly. Even if you make a mistake, you made that mistake perfectly.
Probably. Yeah. A lot of people who don't like me out there, so I don't know if they feel the same way.
That's great. That means you're doing something right.
Hopefully.
If you have people drinking Haterade, that means you're doing something right, because that means you got their attention. Perhaps. And they're putting forth the energy to not like you and tell someone about it.
And that's wasted energy. You know what I'm saying? They should just come together and be like, you know what? Let's drink some of that. Not Haterade, but let's drink some of that. Give me a word for it. Some of that celebratory drink that you got there.
Celebratory drink.
I don't know, is it coquito? I don't know what it is.
Coquito.
Let's all celebrate. That sounds
I gotta have some coquito this holiday season.
Yes.
I forgot
it's funny, in Honduras we call it rompompe.
Rompompe?
Yeah, something like that. Still delicious.
We're gonna have some
or
of that.
horchata.
I love horchata. It's kind of like horchata.
Not coquille.
But with rum. What's coquille again?
It's like homemade eggnog, but it's not eggnog and liquor, because some people do that. It's not that. My dad used to make it from scratch, I saw carnation milk, condensed milk. I saw a whole bunch of different things going on, but I never paid attention and never learned how to do it. But I'll get you a recipe. I'm pretty sure I know some people out there that know how to do it.
Yeah, gotta have that. Yeah, so before we end this podcast, and I'm so glad everyone is listening and you made it this far. It's a treat, because we're doing you a favor by hearing the wisdom of Karina. So it's your obligation to check out Live Big Girl on Saturday. And I told you I was going to ask you this before we close, and it's along the same line of what we've been talking about. But what do you want to be known for?
I think there's a quote that came to mind, right? I think it's Audrey Hepburn that says, I'm going to paraphrase it. I should know it by now, but I haven't remembered. There is nothing impossible, for I am possible. Like the word itself says, I'm possible. And I know that, growing up and having a guidance counselor tell me, you're not college material, you're just not bright enough, and you're not going to succeed in anything you do, and that type of stuff. And having that be my fuel to actually prove her wrong, instead of using that to, sob and be like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do anything because I'm a loser according to this woman right here. I use that fuel to just prove her wrong and be like, oh, okay, you think I'm not college material, you think I'm not worthy, you think I'm not smart. I'm going to prove you wrong. And so I think that is definitely what one of my messages is nothing's impossible. I am possible. If I can make it, me who graduated high school late, because I graduated high school late. I was a super senior. And never thought I would graduate college because I dropped out. And went back and got my bachelor's degree. Anybody can make it. So I think that could also be part of my little baby legacy that I tell my students. Now I have college students. I used to be with high school students. Is that you're not in a race. This is your journey. You're going to make it your time. Took me a while to do it, to get out of college. But you do it. You get out. And regardless of what people say, it's okay. That's your opinion. I'm not, like I said before, I'm not data and I'm not your statistic. I'm me. And I'm going to make it happen. So
you're going to make it happen. This is another cool thing about, remember I mentioned that people love to prove someone wrong. And when it's a bad thing, it's when it's from like a crazy religious person that wants to tell someone they're going to hell, and that's how they want to prove someone wrong. But when it's healthy and it's for you, and this is another way that you're perfect, you use that as fuel. You prove someone wrong as fuel for your success.
That might not have been the best way to go about it, but it was a way to help me. Best. It helped me get through a lot of obstacles in my life, was just proving them wrong. I remember my dad, when he was alive, he told my husband at that time, who was my boyfriend at that time, Karina, since she was little, if you tell her that circle don't fit in the triangle, she's gonna squeeze it in. And I'm listening to him like, what are you talking about, Dad? He's like, no. And she'll hammer it in. And it doesn't fit perfect, but she'll squeeze it in. And they'll say, look, you told me it wasn't going to fit, but it fit. When my husband told me that, reminded me about it, I said, oh my God, my dad did say that. He's like, yeah, you've been like that all your life. You just never knew it. And you only used it until you really had to, which was probably in high school when I really had to use it. Like, oh, okay, now I'm going to really start proving people wrong. Forget about me putting this circle and this triangle. I'm really going to step up my game. You know? So, yeah, that's one positive memory I have of my dad. You know, even though it sounds like it was a negative thing, but he's actually confirmed me exactly the person that I am. And he's my dad, so he's seen me grow up. So he knows better than I do. Isn't that funny, though?
He knows
so
you.
Weird.
It's really cool. I want you to continue to keep putting circles in triangles. Because that's your asset. That's your strength.
Oh, so funny. I'm not even sure how the heck I did it, but apparently he said I banged it in, and he goes, it's crooked. It's semi-out, semi-in, but she made it try to fit in. She's like, you told me I couldn't do it, but I did it.
But you did it.
And it's not perfect, but it's there.
That's perfect.
Tried, right? You tried. So that memory is always in my mind. That always keeps me remembering my personality, where I am, where I'm going, and where I'm going and where I'm from. So, yeah.
Yeah, I say where you're going is more important than where you're from.
Definitely true.
Because you can't change where you're from. You can always change where you're going.
Right. This is true.
That's awesome. Karina, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I'm humbled to be on the Fenden.
That's right, on the Fenden with your host Sean Ellen Fenn. And sometimes I sing the song at the end. Thank you for being a fan.
Are you serious?
Cool. I did it. I just started to sing it right now.
Here we go.
Thank you for listening to the Fenden. And then it just kind of trails off.
Ah. Cool.
But cue the music. This is the Fenden. Thanks for listening. Check out Karina Lopez. What's your social media handle?
So Instagram and Twitter is KG_Lopez_. For Facebook is KG_Lopez11. And then my website is kglopez.com.
Okay, just Google KG Lopez. I can't keep up.
There's a lot of KG Lopez in there.
All right, peace.